The midnight breakthrough, an unprecedented policy shift. In the early hours of the morning, precisely at 2:09 a.m., a development occurred that has fundamentally shifted the financial outlook for millions of Americans. This was not a routine policy update. It was a midnight breakthrough where the White House confirmed that President Trump has officially signed off on a revised structure for $2,000 tariff rebate checks. For weeks, the public had been left to speculate on the validity and structure of such a program, but the transition from discussion to execution has now been finalized. This confirmation did not come through the usual channels of a primetime press conference or an extended media briefing. Instead, it moved through internal Treasury notifications, signaling a quiet but urgent shift toward immediate action. For seniors across the country, particularly those living on fixed incomes, this moment represents a significant pivot in how federal relief is prioritized. While early headlines suggested a focus on middle-income workers, the internal documents released overnight reveal a much deeper and more consequential prioritization of the nation's most vulnerable citizens. The funding mechanism, why Congress is not required. One of the most critical aspects of this $2,000 rebate from an analytical standpoint is its funding source, which separates it from traditional stimulus programs. Unlike previous stimulus payments that required complex negotiations and new legislation from Congress, this program is funded through revenue collected from import tariffs. President Trump has consistently argued that when tariffs generate excess revenue, that money should be returned directly to American households rather than sitting idle in government accounts. Because these funds already exist within the Treasury, the department has the authority to move forward with distribution without waiting for a new federal spending bill. This distinction is vital for the SL. The data-driven pivot, recognizing the inflation crisis. The suddenness of this 2:00 a.m. announcement was driven by a series of uncomfortable economic reports that reached the White House in recent days. These internal briefings highlighted a troubling reality. Inflation has hit older Americans harder than almost any other demographic. While working families often have the theoretical ability to increase their income through overtime or job changes, seniors on fixed incomes are largely trapped by their monthly benefit levels while the prices of food, utilities, rent, and medical care continue to climb. President Trump was presented with data showing a sharp rise in financial hardship among those receiving less than $1,300 per month from Social Security. This data became the catalyst for a fast-track review. The administration's economic advisors concluded that if tariff revenue is being returned to the public, those with the least buying power must not be relegated to the back of the line. The new priority framework, seniors as a Tier 1 group. The internal restructuring that accompanied this late-night approval marks the first time that seniors have been treated as a primary priority group rather than an afterthought. In the original framework of the tariff rebate discussions, seniors were only mentioned broadly, with the main focus placed on middle-income families. However, the updated documentation reveals a complete reversal of that approach. Treasury officials have created a new classification specifically for households with limited or fixed income, placing seniors squarely at the center of this priority list. This means that for those relying on Social Security, SSI, or SSDI as their primary income, the eligibility profile has fundamentally changed. Seniors are no longer waiting behind millions of working households. They have been moved to the front of the queue where approvals are handled faster and verification processes are significantly simpler. Rethinking purchasing power and financial vulnerability. A key sentence found in the revised Treasury language has triggered the entire restructuring of the payment queue. Households with limited purchasing power should not be left behind. This principle serves as the analytical foundation for why the system now recognizes the unique vulnerability of those on fixed benefits. The updated system identifies that seniors receiving lower than average Social Security benefits are among the most impacted by the current economic environment because they lack financial flexibility. While a worker's wages might eventually adjust to inflation, a senior's income is often static, meaning every price increase at the grocery store or the pharmacy represents a direct hit to their quality of life. This priority list is not merely symbolic. It is a functional change that dictates how the Treasury's computers will review eligibility and issue confirmations. It is an acknowledgement that those who feel price increases most immediately deserve the most immediate response. Triggering the fast track. Why the shift happened overnight. Many have asked why this change happened so suddenly and without public warning. The answer lies in the White House's desire to avoid premature leaks and ensure that the Treasury systems were fully aligned before disclosure. By the time the confirmation reached the public at 2 a.m., the decision had already been finalized and the systems were being updated to reflect the new priority order. The administration chose to move forward quietly to ensure that once the news broke, the path to distribution was already clear. This shift was described by insiders as data-driven rather than political theater, focusing on the real-world impact of who can and cannot absorb price increases over time. Seniors scored the highest on the vulnerability scale, which forced the administration to elevate them within the program structure. Deciphering the three-tier system, where seniors stand. To manage the complexity of paying millions of Americans, the Treasury has organized the distribution into a three-tier system. This is perhaps the most significant structural change in the program's history. Originally, Tier 1 was reserved for middle-income workers earning between $30,000 and $75,000, based on the assumption that they would feel the impact of tariffs most directly. However, the revised scoring model has moved low-income seniors directly into Tier 1. This places them among the highest priority recipients in the nation. The system now evaluates households not just on how much they earn, but on their income stability and dependency on government benefits. Because fixed-income seniors are highly vulnerable to inflation, they saw their eligibility scores jump dramatically, pushing them ahead in the queue. Tier 2 now includes the working households that were previously first, while Tier 3 is reserved for high earners or cases requiring complex manual verification. Critical income thresholds. Defining high priority. The updated Treasury scoring guidelines provide specific income levels that qualify for this expedited priority review. The strongest candidates for early approval are households earning below approximately $30,000 per year. However, the model places even greater weight on the source of that income. If it is exclusively from Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or survivor's benefits, the household is automatically flagged for fast-track status. Within this group, there are even more refined thresholds. Seniors receiving under $2,300 per month are considered highly vulnerable. Furthermore, a special category exists for those receiving under $200 per month, who are identified as facing the most severe financial pressure and are placed in the highest priority lane within Tier 1. These individuals are now positioned for some of the fastest approvals in the entire program. Streamlined verification process. The Fast Verify Advantage. One of the greatest points of relief for seniors is the confirmation that most will not need to apply for the $2,000 payment. The revised system is designed to handle eligibility reviews automatically by utilizing existing data from the Social Security Administration and the IRS. Because retirees already have their income, benefit status, and payment information stored within federal databases, they are classified as Fast Verify households. This is a major departure from past stimulus programs that often required seniors to file new tax returns or respond to manual verification requests. Treasury is deliberately minimizing these administrative hurdles to avoid delays. For the vast majority of seniors, the process will be hands-off, as their documented and consistent records are easy to confirm across the government's synced systems. Addressing exceptions and data mismatches. While the system is largely automated, there are specific exceptions that seniors must be aware of to avoid being pushed into a slower processing lane. If a recipient has changed their address recently, has outdated direct deposit information, or has incomplete records in the IRS or SSA systems, they may receive a request for confirmation. These alerts are most likely to appear in the My Social Security portal or an IRS online account. Treasury officials strongly advise that these messages should not be ignored. Responding quickly is the only way to ensure a payment remains in the priority lane. Interestingly, the revised structure also addresses seniors who have filed zero income tax returns in recent years. In the past, these cases caused significant bottlenecks, but the Treasury is now authorized to use SSA benefit data to bypass these hurdles, allowing non-filers to move through the system as quickly as any other priority group. The timeline for distribution. What to expect next. While exact dates for the $2,000 deposits have not been released, the internal timeline suggests a more favorable outlook for seniors than previously expected. Treasury is sequencing approvals based on final verification rather than the order of public announcements. Because seniors are now in Tier 1 and require fewer processing steps due to their existing federal records, they may see status updates and confirmations while other groups are still being reviewed. Once eligibility is confirmed, Treasury will coordinate with the SSA and IRS to finalize the payment methods. Analysts expect that beneficiaries will see status changes in their federal portals, such as a notification that eligibility has been confirmed or that processing has begun, before the funds actually hit their bank accounts. Early projections suggest seniors could receive these confirmations weeks ahead of those in Tier 2. Safeguarding existing federal benefits. A major concern among seniors is whether a $2,000 rebate will interfere with their regular monthly benefits. The Treasury and the Social Security Administration have been explicit: this payment will not reduce your Social Security, SSI, or SSDI benefits. The $2,000 rebate is not classified as earned or unearned income. It is a rebate funded through tariff revenue, which keeps it outside the income calculations used for benefit eligibility. It will not trigger benefit reviews, lower future payments, or affect cost of living adjustments. For SSI recipients who face strict asset limits, officials have clarified that the rebate does not count as income. However, there is a practical recommendation. Recipients should use the funds for essential expenses rather than letting large sums sit in an account indefinitely, as holding the money for extended periods could eventually impact asset-based program limits. Vigilance against scams and fraud. As with any major federal payment, the risk of scams is expected to increase significantly. Analysts warn that Treasury and the SSA will never call, text, or email you to ask for personal information, Social Security numbers, or banking details in exchange for your rebate. Any request for a payment fee to unlock your check is a definitive sign of a scam. All legitimate interactions regarding the tariff rebate will occur through the official secure portals like My Social Security or the IRS website. The best way to stay safe is to remain alert but patient, recognizing that the automatic verification system is designed to work without you having to disclose sensitive information to third parties. Final steps and national significance. As we conclude this analysis, the most important steps for seniors are to ensure their information is accurate in federal systems and to monitor their official online accounts for any alerts. You do not need Congress to act, you do not need to apply in most cases, and you do not need to fear for your regular benefits. This program represents a meaningful shift in national policy, one that finally recognizes the extreme financial pressure placed on older Americans by rising costs and limited flexibility. For the first time in years, seniors are no longer at the back of the line. They have been elevated to a position of priority. Staying informed and prepared will ensure that this relief reaches you as quickly and smoothly as possible as the program enters its final phase of execution.